Animal legs. What are some funky things that I've seen with animal legs? I'll go from the perspective of animal legs on people. If we're drawing them straight on a dog, I'll go for like dogs first, just because like, I'll draw, what kind of dog am I doing? I don't want to do a corgi, let's just, corgis are a little small. So we have a dog. I see some people just, woo, woo, the straight up and down. What the dog doing? But yeah, this is one thing that I see, is the straight up and down, no joints. Don't do this. So no leg bend, unrealistic on people and animals. No bend is something I see more often than you think. Another thing that I see sometimes is like if we got a chunker. I want to draw a chunky dog. I'm trying to think of a chunky dog, like a chow chow maybe. And then I see dogs like this, and then like the legs are like this. Oh, this kills me. Disproportionate legs. Legs should match the body they're attached to. So these are just general, those are the legs on an animal. Let's do for legs on. So on people, there's some stuff that I've seen. If we're starting with just general animal legs, where it's just the person legs and then paws. So this is technically not incorrect. Really, it doesn't take proportion of the initial anatomy / weighting into account. We'll talk about why I find this incorrect, because what this does is it actually removes a joint. It takes away a joint that should be there. Legs in general will have 3 like primary quote-unquote joints within them. And while this is not technically incorrect, it doesn't take the initial proportion into account. So it does feel more incorrect than like what most people tend to do. When we're drawing a person's leg, we are something called plantigrades, right? We are plantigrades. So I'll show you what that means. So if we take our legs, so that's the thigh, and then the calf, and then our heel, and then our toes. 4 sections, 3 quote-unquote joints. So this is plantigrade. So our heel and our toe are on the ground, right? So plantigrade feet are what we have. Other mammal legs, like dogs, cats, birds, are digitigrade. That's what these legs are called. So this is digitigrade. So only toe is on the ground. That's why this one is technically incorrect. Because by drawing it with just these 2 and then the paws, we're removing our heel. We're removing a joint that's in there. So you're basically just completely removing it. That's why it is incorrect in a more scientific anatomical way, right? So when we draw all of our animal legs, our digitigrade legs are what we have for dogs and cats and birds, most birds. Kangaroos are actually plantigrade because kangaroo legs are like, you have the big haunches and then you have this back here and then its big feet sit like that. That's like a kangaroo leg. So kangaroos are actually also plantigrade.
If you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education, become a member on Patreon.
So digitigrade, I've drawn those as sort of cat legs. So if I were to translate that into bird legs, the thing with birds is that their legs are very, very thin, right? If I was to translate bird legs onto a person, right, I'd probably keep the thighs the same and slowly I'd thin out the legs a lot. So the calves and the ankle would thin out a lot. And then the heel would be really, really thin. Again, this is very fantasy. It's like there's really no scientific way to do this properly. Because birds have hollow bones, so they're a lot lighter than people are. So their legs can probably hold up this amount of weight. That's how they can fly as well. Right, so I would thin out these legs a lot. But then I would make sure that the feet are really large. So then you have a larger base to hold the body on, right? So if you kind of think of it as like a lamp, you know, the lamp bottom has like a really, really wide base, but it's like really, really thin on top. But that wide base makes sure that the height can be held on the bottom. So I would need to make sure that the talons are really, really wide to account for the fact that the legs are very, very thin. Often when I draw the animal legs, I just change the ratio of torso to legs just to make it easier on me. When I was younger, I would do that. I would shorten the thighs and then kind of move up where the knee would be and then shift where the heel would be. As I've gotten older and done it more, I think I've just made the legs longer. Like I've changed the ratio so it would be closer to like 1/3 torso, 2/3 leg. But yes, that is one way to do it, is if you shorten and change the ratio of the parts of the leg instead. It's just a bit awkward to look at first. You get used to it, but it happens. So bird legs are thin and have a wide base to feet to account for the weight. How long should it be? I either change the torso to leg ratio or shift joints to account for new legs, right? So it really just does depend on what you want to do. I tend to switch between those 2, but Depends on what you're feeling. This kind of deal is the same thing with Y-based feet to account for weight. It's the same deal with dogs and cats. I tend to break that rule though. So if I am drawing like, I have a fox character. So when I'm drawing the fox feet, I don't tend to make the paws very, very large. I tend to keep them very, very thin. So it does look like he's walking on needles all the time, which is like not really realistic, but I tend to not care on that regard because I want him to have that really thin frame rather than like have the more powerful looking haunches because I want to keep that thinness with the character. So again, all of these rules, you can keep them at your own discretion. There are stuff that like, you know, will help the character feel more realistic. It'll help them feel a bit more grounded, but again, you can take more stylistic ideas.
If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Join our art community with the links down below if you'd like to support the channel in the creation of free arts education. Become a member on Patreon for working files, behind-the-scenes posts, and discounts on our class offerings. If you enjoyed this video, here's a couple other videos you can check out next.